Good evening, my good dear bar rats. Hopefully, you're all filtering in for an action-packed episode of RickCast here. I'm glad you guys are here on this Thursday, the 15th of May, 2025. Big news day. Yesterday was a little slow. Today is not as slow. Either way, we are going to have a good time on my double duty tonight. I will be hanging out with you guys for an hour now with RickCast, and then I'll jump right over. And at 8:30 Eastern Time, I will be going on with Sensus Fidelium's very own Stephen Cunningham for another amazing episode of news from the pew. So we are going to get to it, ladies and gentlemen. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell across all the platforms: Getter, Rumble, YouTube, Twitch, Twitch user. Salute to you. And yeah. So what's on the docket tonight? We got two hot takes, things that I think you should be made aware of. Then we're going to talk about the big story of the day is the birthright citizenship. And it's not the actual birthright citizenship. That's what people are getting wrong. You could even get after me. I put it wrong in the title. It is challenging whether the appeal with the district judges should be allowed. Now we're kind of getting lost in the minutia here, but because there was a point where the district attorney, or I'm sorry, the attorney general for these United States, the representative, the solicitor general, was asked if this case didn't go well, would they bring back birthright citizenship on its own? And he said yes. So there's something called the merits of the case, and this is not the merits of that case. This is whether district judges should be able to do nationwide appeals. So I think just be careful in the coverage when you see people who are not obviously as wise and as attractive as I am talking about this situation, because they're just going to say birthright citizenship. It's not birthright citizenship. This is the appeal. This is to stop district judges from doing nationwide stoppages or blockages. And I'll talk about how, it could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, but we'll definitely look at it going forward. And then we're going to talk about JD Vance is going to Pope Leo XIV's inaugural mass. Of course, everybody's joking that the last time JD Vance was at the Vatican, things didn't go so well. So Pope Leo XIV must be protected at all costs. Maybe JD Vance can stand on the other side of the Vatican. The Vatican's pretty big. So if he can stand at the entrance, it's like 4 football fields or something like that. It's ridiculous. If you ever actually get the chance to go to the Vatican, you can't tell how massive of a complex it is. It's like 4 different artists did 4 different things. That's why it looks very different. The front versus the dome versus all that kind of stuff. I think you can fit either like the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty from the entrance all the way to the chair of St. Peter. And it fits in the Vatican. That's how massive it is. Why am I saying that? Because I want JD Vance to be as far away from Pope Leo XIV as possible. JD, don't be like that, man. Don't be Mr. Cheese on this one. Don't be going. Pope Leo's got too much. He's got too much drip and aura right now to be messing this up, buddy. That'll hurt your chances. I'm not happy with that. ESPN is dropping its own streaming service for $29 a month. You heard that right. Not $2.99, not $12.99, not $19.99, $29.99. For the ability to watch crappy sports on a crappy streaming service. So just a further death nail to ESPN and Disney in general, because after the disastrous rollout of Ironheart yesterday, which we didn't even talk about, I just hope that it just fails and goes away. And then finally, I found this story very interesting. Nobody else is talking about it. There are problems with solar panels. I've talked about them a lot, but they're all made in China. They're all made in China, and we're starting to find hidden communication devices in these Chinese solar equipment that is being sold across the world. Shockingly enough, when the Chinese build stuff, they build hidden communication devices inside this equipment, and I think that's another reason why we don't want to be building those kinds of things overseas. Good evening, Bellator. It is great to see you. And here we go. All right, let's get to some hot takes. And while people are filtering into the bar for my bar rats as you get in here, hopefully you are enjoying a cool beverage of some sort as we are watching or as we are hanging out tonight. Let's get to our first hot take. Evening, Mr. Dean. It's great to see you as always, my friend. I hope you are doing well. It's great to have you here. Good evening, Mark. Always nice to have you here, sir. Bar rats are filtering in, and it is great to see you all. Let's take a look at our first story. Got two hot takes for you for today. Which one is it? I gotta find like StreamYard. I heard it, yeah, because it's got a stupid ad in front of it. Thanks, Deadline, with your dumb ads. All right, if you're a Catholic, you should be both excited and a little bit nervous. Here we go from Deadline.com. Mel Gibson sets Resurrection of the Christ with Lionsgate, follow-up to blockbuster Passion of the Christ. Why, Rick, would you be absurd? Why would you be worried about this? Why would you be nervous about this? Mel Gibson did Passion of the Christ, and now he's going to do Resurrection of the Christ. On the surface, everything looks good. However, two things, not one, but two things jump out at me. Hopefully, I am proven 100% wrong, and this is no offense to Mel or any of the other things. When the first movie was released, The Passion of the Christ, the big story behind it was that nobody would distribute this movie. No one would back this movie, and Mel had to do it on his own. That gave him the ability to pretty much make whatever film he wanted to make. He was free from any production or oversight or anything else, if that makes sense. Now he's got Lionsgate attached. What is that going to mean as far as oversight? Does he have 100% oversight? Are there other producers on here? Will those producers be giving them notes? Will Lionsgate be asking that certain things be removed for certain ways? How much is Lionsgate going to get involved in this? Now, Lionsgate is not a huge production company, so it's not a large distributing company either. So they don't have as much sway as somebody like Sony or Universal or Disney or any of these others. So maybe it's not as bad as I fear, but extra interference is extra interference. Secondly, and this, I am trying to be as charitable and honest, and this is no way, shape, or form and a negative. Mel Gibson, and this is true for every single person that's ever existed. You're not the same person you were 10, 25 years ago. Mel's a different guy than he was. He went through a nasty divorce. He went through the infamous tape with his Russian mistress, doing all these other things. There was the arrest. There's a lot of things that he's gone through. And I wonder how that's going to shape his vision. That's my thing. I have no doubt, and I'm not questioning his faith, and I'm not questioning any of that. Please do not think that. I am thinking of from a creator standpoint. The person he was, back into the early 2000s is not the same person as he is now. So it is one of these things that I'm just asking. I hope that I am so wrong that it's one of my classic blunders being completely wrong on that. I hope so. And it's not that I'm saying he can't do it. I think he can. But when The Passion came out, nobody expected anything from it. And so he was playing with house money. He was playing with everything. Even though he put his own fortune into it, he was playing with house money. Now we have the burden of what? We have the burden of expectations on this. And everybody's going to be watching it, and everybody's going to take every little, oh, this was on the set. Oh, this person's there. Oh, this. There's going to be a lot more scrutiny on it. So it is what it is. I hope, Bellator, I hope I am wrong, as I can once in a while tend to be. But it's something that we need to not get worried about. We need to pray for Mel. We need to pray for Jim Caviezel. We need to pray for everybody that's on it. Because if you watch any of the documentaries and the stuff that the crew on the first Passion, they went through some stuff. Everybody knows about Jim Caviezel and what he went through, but there were other people that went through a ton of stuff because the enemy did not want that film to release. So I know with this one being greenlit, he's going to come harder on this film than he did on the first one. So we need to pray for everybody involved in the resurrection of the Christ, and hopefully it'll be it doesn't even have to be superior. I'd be happy if it was of the same level as the last one. So it is what it is. No, it's not whataboutism, Lou. It's a great point. Don't ever be afraid. On my show, I know sometimes I get a little snippy with you guys, and that's my fault. Don't ever be afraid to bring these things up. He was the guy that helped Shia convert. So he was the one who helped him find those places. Like I said, I'm not doubting his Catholicism, not in any way, shape, or form. I'm just I'm trying to bring up factors that don't really question his Catholicism. Like the Lionsgate thing is going to be interesting, how much involvement they're going to want. Is it too centered on a certain group with small hats? We can't have that or this, or, we have to, like somebody, Mark said, the Prodi influence, oh, well, maybe that's not the way, things like that. And then secondly, just you're a different person after your experiences, and how's that going to color it? It may not have any of that, and I'm hoping it doesn't. I'm just raising questions. That's all. I'm just raising questions that I hope I can come back on this thing and say, Rick Barrett was once again 100% wrong on that, and I'm so happy I was. That's all. Just I hope and I pray for a successful film, but there are always concerns with a follow-up to such an absolutely cultural phenom that was The Passion of the Christ. And of course, this is the official trailer that was dropped today. So that's the problem, and that's what it is. If it is, but yeah, I hope it's gonna, because I don't know about you. I'll be the first one to tell you, I watch The Passion every Friday, every Good Friday. If I can't get to Stations, that's my substitute. It's essentially my substitute for going to Stations of the Cross. And every single year I watch The Passion of the Christ, I find something new. Even now, depending on what my Lent has been, it's that much more impactful. So, hopefully that I don't need it to be I need it to be the same quality. If it's the same, if it's a through line and they're both amazing, then I'm great. I'm very, very, very happy about it. So yeah, there's a lot of great stories around Passion, and we need to pray for those same stories that around the resurrection. Second hot take, here we go. James Coney, not resurrection, sorry, get out of here. Let's see. This was, let me get the first one of James Coney. Let's see. There it is. So James Coney, former FBI director, decided to play on the beach a couple hours ago. And this was on his Instagram. See, Comey, blue check mark. And it says 8647. And he says, cool shell formation I found on my beach walk. Now, if you are hip to the lingo that I am, because I am hip with the kids, you know that 8647 means to unalive the 47th president of these United States. It's essentially calling out a hit on Donald J. Trump. And the fact is that you have to be somewhat perturbed and somewhat sad at James Comey that he's still trying to impress people. Like, think of the effort. This guy walked around, found shells, arranged them in order, and then took a picture of it like a 5-year-old girl. Look at this. The kids are going to think I'm so lit. 8647. Look at this cool natural form. Shut up, you loser. James Coney is just another loser government official who is desperate to be in with the lobbyists and all these other people. This is legitimately an I don't want to say an attempt, but a call to action. So much so that Kristi Noem came out and was like, are you serious? Good. Secret Service is going to come visit you and see what's up with that. I would personally perp walk them. The tyrant in me would be like, I know what I need you to do, Christy, my little law enforcement Barbie. What I need you to do is I need you to go and get Comey and perp walk him. Just perp walk him around, make an example out of him, put him in the drunk tank. I don't even care if he's drunk, just put him there anyway. Like, these people need to be made examples of. And I know some of you may get annoyed with that, and I get it, government overreach, but these people are psychotic. These people have TDS. He absolutely should be arrested for it. It's absolutely a violation of this. Because Rick Trunk. There you go, Dean. Just for you, buddy. My buddy Dean Oaks. What a guy. You can't put this out there and be like, cool rock formation, guys. First of all, that's feminine nature. And second, it's super feminine. And second of all, like, nobody's going to think you're cool. And of course, he had to come out later and say, well, guys, technically, I posted a picture earlier of some shells that I saw on the beach, which I assumed was a political message. I didn't realize some folks associated that number with like, okay, how dumb. These are the people that seek to rule you. James Comey was in a position to affect your life. And he thinks you have the intelligence of lukewarm soup. I didn't know people associated those numbers with violence. It never occurred to me, but I oppose violence of any kind. Perp walk him. Perp walk him. I don't care what he writes on Instagram. That's not that. You can't do that. You cannot call for violence on your political opponents. This is not South Africa. Despite the left's best attempts to do so. Right? What are people supposed to think? Wow, James Comey, you should work for National Geographic. That is the most natural rock formation I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, what a moron. And these guys supposedly are smarter than you. But nothing will happen of it. I'm sure Kristi Noem will investigate it, and they'll say, oh, well, yeah, he said he was sorry. And no, you perp walk him. This is the problem. This is why it's so frustrating to not be a liberal. Because if this was a liberal, liberals put people in jail for a supposed riot on the Feast of the Epiphany 2020. When people were standing outside the Capitol, they're serving time in jail. They were put in a locked room with a mattress and a bucket for walking around with an American flag. These people are openly calling for the unaliving of President Trump, and nothing will happen to them. What kind of example are we of a nation of laws? What does that even mean? It means nothing. It means the left does whatever they want when they're in power, and the right just sits around and goes, well, we don't want to do it because we set a bad precedent, even though the left's doing it. But just another day, although I'd like to see Trump just be like, Comey, you're going to jail. Bye-bye, buddy. All right, let's move on here on RickCast, hour one of my doubleheader. 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. News from the Pew. Myself and Steve Cunningham will be hanging out, talking about stuff. Well, Kristi Noem already said that she was going to investigate it. She was sending Secret Service to go talk to him. I don't think they should arrest him, bring him in, uncuff him, and then talk to him. But, that's how I do things. First story up of the night, ladies and gentlemen. Today was another monumental day at SCOTUS, simply because this was the beginning of the process of birthright citizenship. Now, for those of you that came in a little later, this did not deal with birthright citizenship. A lot of people are going to say, the birthright citizenship. No, this is talking about district judges and their ability to block nationwide executive orders and laws and things like that. That's what today was about. It was about the district judges, not the actual question of birthright citizenship. Now, of course, everybody's going to jump the gun and talk about birthright citizenship because that's the catchy thing. Obviously, I used it in the headline, so you can yell at me in the comment section below. I'm cool with it if you'd like to. But there was some good and some bad when it came to the birthright citizenship appeal process today at SCOTUS. Now, even Newsweek is not covering this correctly. So the United States Supreme Court justices appeared highly skeptical. Actually, no, I'm gonna play a video first. It's a little bit long, but it'll give you a better overall than this.
Court appears torn as it weighs Donald Trump's argument that courts shouldn't be allowed to freeze his order ending birthright citizenship. The justices today sounding deeply skeptical that denying citizenship to children born in the United States was constitutional.
By the way, that's not the question here. We're not talking about the merits of the case. CNN, in all its liberal, libtard, left-wing glory, is trying to frame this as the birthright citizenship case. This is not. There's the merits of that case, and then there's the district judges. There's two totally separate things here, and obviously the people that have creative writing degrees and nothing more at CNN and are absolutely devious in their coverage, they're going to try and convince you of one thing or another.
Even realistic.
This is just a very practical question, how this is going to work. What do hospitals do with a newborn? What do states do with a newborn?
If we're afraid that this is, or even have a thought that this is unlawful executive action, that it is Congress who decides citizenship, not the executive, if we believe, some of us were to believe that, why should we permit those countless others to be subject to what we think is an unlawful executive action?
Now, of course, it's only okay if the unlawful executive action advances progressive agendas. Never forget that. And everybody's least favorite judge and detriment to my name had to weigh in as well.
This one isn't clear cut on the merits.
This one, in this case, we want the court to address the remedial issue.
On the merits, you are wrong, that the EO is unlawful.
But of course,
remember, they're not talking about the EO on this question. This question is about district judges. But do you notice how SCOTUS doesn't even want to talk about that? They want to skip ahead and get to the actual birthright citizen thing, which is a little bit troubling in that regard.
This case isn't just about citizenship. It's also about the ability of lower courts to place.
It's not about birthright citizenship. It is about what she's going to say.
Wide holds on the president's policies while they're being challenged in court. That's what's actually being argued here. Since Inauguration Day, judges across the country have issued over a dozen nationwide injunctions preventing the White House from enacting various policies, from ending immigration programs to cutting federal funding and slashing DEI programs, giving President Trump, yet another reason to attack judges.
Radical left judges, radical left lunatic judges.
He's a nasty judge.
Extreme far left judges.
And really crooked judges.
These are rogue judges, these horrible judges.
Today, the court's conservatives indicated they might agree that lower courts are going too far. But several of the justices, especially among the liberals, expressed concern that...
So just, you already got to put on the board, the three liberals, Kagan, Brown Jackson, and Sonia Sotomayor, they're all against this. So you're not breaking any news here, CNN. Amy Coney Barrett is probably agreeing with them. Why is this nerve-wracking? Because it comes down to John Roberts. And when it comes down to John Roberts, I have a feeling John Roberts' spine is going to fold like an accordion once again, and he's going to allow lower courts to do this, to do what they've been doing.
Limiting those nationwide injunctions could leave people with little recourse to challenge government abuses and overreach.
The real concern, I think, is that your argument seems to turn our justice system, in my view at least, into a catch-me-if-you-can kind of regime from the standpoint of the executive, where everybody has to have a lawyer and file a lawsuit in order for the government to stop violating people's rights.
I think
now you have to look. Hold on. You have to look at this another way. The fact that our current court system is segregated into left and right, meaning even if the executive order doesn't impact you, you could file in district courts in Rhode Island, New York, California, Oregon, Washington, Illinois, Maine, maybe Vermont, Connecticut, Massachusetts. And those judges are going to rubber stamp it and say, yep, Trump's action is illegal. Now, conversely, you could file most likely in Texas, Florida, Arkansas, right? Red states will most likely. Now, that's not even a guarantee a lot of times. But the thinking is, if you file in a blue state, it's going to go that way. If you file in a red state, it's going to go that way. So the fact that they're like, well, it's going to turn into this thing where everybody's going to need a lawyer to do this. The Trump administration is arguing, well, we got to win in every single court across the country, as opposed to I file in California, I lose there. I file in New York, I win there, same outcome happens. Instead of, and the Trump administration has got to go to both. Whereas one group can file in California, one group can file in New York, one group can file in Oregon, one group can file in Massachusetts with different resources and different limits, as opposed to the Trump administration where they have to go everywhere and defend these all over the place.
A lawyer and file a lawsuit in order for the government to stop violating people's rights.
I think the catch me if you can problem operates in the opposite direction, where we have the government racing from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, having to sort of clear the table in order to implement a new policy.
All right, our panel is here today. But first, let's go to CNN Chief Legal Affairs Correspondent, Paula Reed. Paula, wonderful to see you as always. You listened to all of this. Help us understand the differences between where it seems like the judges are going on the big picture birthright citizenship question versus this more narrow but very relevant question of whether or not nationwide injunctions should continue to be allowed.
Let's start with the more narrow issue. Before the argument, Trump's lawyers told me they were thrilled to get this question about whether district court judges have too much power before the Supreme Court, because while these so-called nationwide injunctions have annoyed every modern president who has seen some of his policies blocked, none more so than President Trump, because he makes such prolific use of executive orders. He has been blocked a record 39 times by one of these injunctions in just the past few months. So it was high stakes for the administration. And based on what we heard during arguments, it appears that he might very well have a majority of justices who agree to limit or end this power altogether. And if that happens, that will have enormous consequences on his ability to implement his agenda. I want to note, though, this is not just a Trump issue. The past 5 administrations, the Justice Department.
That is something that is very true, where if this does get limited, and I think Sonia Sotomayor brought this up, what happens if President BBL writes an executive order saying firearms are no longer, the Second Amendment is no more. I'm ending the Second Amendment. Well, you'd have to wait for SCOTUS for it to go through the ranks for that.
Department has said that these are an issue. But what makes this complicated is that this case that appeared before the justices, this is about a challenge to his executive order, his day one order ending birthright citizenship. And most legal experts agree that that is likely unconstitutional, not something you can do.
Problem is, most constitutional experts are morons. They are. They're stupid. They don't understand that the 14th Amendment, the magical amendment, the amazing amendment, was meant for slaves. Just to, right? Free citizen vote, 13, 14, 15. Free citizen vote. That's what it was. Freed the slaves, gave the slaves citizenship, and gave slaves the right to vote. 13, 14, 15 are all Reconstruction slave amendments. There's a lot of other stuff I can get into, but I'm not going to do that right now. And the fact that they're like, well, that's unconstitutional. It didn't mean that if Soon Lee flies in from China to go to Disneyland and she's 8 months pregnant or 9 months pregnant, and Soon Lee has a baby on Magic Mountain, all of a sudden that kid is all, a citizen of these United States. It's the same principle if, I don't know, give me a Polish name. Ludwig von Liechtenstein from I forgot the movie, from Knight's Tale. Let's say Ludwig von Liechtenstein flies in from Europe to go see a play or an opera with his 9-month pregnant wife, and she has a baby in the middle of the symphony. That kid's not a citizen either. And so it's not meant for people who are not citizens. And yet all these people are going to say, it's guaranteed. It's guaranteed. It's guaranteed. It was guaranteed for people who are already here, not for people coming by on birthright tourism, as it has been
through executive order. And the liberal justices appear to agree with the challengers that this is exactly why you need one court order governing the entire country. You can't have a situation where you can get a birth certificate in one state if your parents aren't citizens and you're born here, but not in another. The Chief Justice John Roberts, he is going to be key to whatever they decide here.
That makes me
I
nervous.
think there was a workaround to that threat of chaos. So Casey, next month we're going to be watching so closely to see what the justices do here on nationwide injunctions and if they do anything on birthright citizenship, because whatever they decide here will have an enormous consequence not only on President Trump's second term, but on all future presidents.
Yep, that's pretty much it. So understand from rhetoric how both sides are framing it. Both are using emotionally charged rhetoric. Left condemns the policy as hateful, right, to immigrants, and the right decried opponents as liberal justices who are grilling the administration. And they diverge sharply on the constitutional scope of birthright citizenship, revealing deep ideological divides over immigration. And it's really about, this first one is about having district judges having nationwide rule. And that's an interesting question because the right benefited greatly under Joe Biden with stuff like the bump stock case. Although we only had it with different jurisdictions and so forth. But it's going to be interesting, especially as the left is trying to frame this as the birthright citizen case when it's actually not. It's about the scope of how much power district judges have. Are they allowed to do nationwide bans or injunctions or whatever you want to call them? All right, folks, this is RickCast. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. Let's get to our second story of the night. Steamrolling right along. JD Vance. Oh, go away. Ew. Ugly. Bye. Let's see. JD Vance will head to Rome for the Pope Leo XIV, his inaugural mass. And I think I said this yesterday. Mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa. The Pontiff's, oh yeah, I did. Pontiff's Twitter account is up and active 4 days before I thought it would be. But, you know, anyway, a lot of Catholics are like, JD, last time you went to Rome, things didn't go well for the Holy Father. So can you do us a favor and stand on the other side of the Vatican and not get anywhere near our Holy Father? Now, of course, that's rhetoric. More importantly, the left is going to try and frame, and they're not going to be, I think our Holy Father is actually a lot more media savvy than Pope Francis. Because Pope Francis was beloved by the media, so he didn't need a lot of media training. He just kind of fired off at the hip. He wasn't very measured in his response. As in everything that Pope Leo XIV has done, everything's been very measured. So I don't think they're going to question him. You can guarantee that Vatican officials are going to be asked about JD Vance and his presence at the inaugural mass, considering his hateful rhetoric when it comes to things like immigration and so forth. And of course, this is the stuff that was brought up when they said, oh, well, an American Pope was elected to contrast Trump. I don't think Pope Leo XIV, at least in his initial, everything could be wrong. It could change, but I don't think so. Not right now. He has not made many overtures to individual policies of individual countries. Like he said, we need to stop war in the Middle East and the Ukraine. That's not a very selective part. That's just end war. And he's not really addressing individual issues yet. I'm going to say it this way. I hope the Holy Father doesn't go anywhere near this topic. I don't think Pope Leo is going to see him. You're right. Bellator, I agree. I don't think he's going to see him. I think it's more of JD's going, and the left-wing media is going to try and put the wedge between them. I don't think JD Vance or Pope Leo are expecting to even shake hands at this point because it's going to be such a massive amount of people. But watch the coverage. They'll say JD Vance, who earlier got into it with the previous Pope Francis over immigration, is in attendance, blah, blah, blah. You know how they do these kinds of things and the way that they're going to try and set that up. Vice President JD Vance will be in Rome this weekend for the inaugural Mass of Pope Leo XIV. Vance, who met with the late Pope Francis on Easter Sunday, just hours before his death, will make another trip to the Vatican to greet his successor. Oh, I guess we're going to have to choose our plan. Whatever, we're not going to do that. As a Catholic convert, Vance will lead a U.S. delegation to Vatican City for Leo's inaugural Mass, which is going to be held May 18th. Second Lady Usher Vance is also scheduled to attend, along with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and his wife. Of course, this inaugural Mass holds a special place here in these United States because he's the first American Pope in history. And JD Vance is the first Catholic first Catholic convert, because you had Joe Biden there, to be vice president. So it continues on, and it's going to be interesting, more so from the coverage standpoint. And I think this is going to be very interesting as far as it's going to set the tone. I believe it's going to set the tone for the next 4 years in regards to when something happens with U.S. politics, and then if it's Catholic in nature or anything like that, how they will try to frame it against the Vatican, if that makes sense. So I will read a little bit more here now that I have one that's not blocking me for stupid reasons. According to the Vatican, Pope Leo XIV will reside over the inaugural Mass on Sunday in St. Peter's, the same place where he was announced as the 267th pontiff of the Roman Catholic Church 1 week ago. He's the first American Pope, so his inauguration will mark a momentous occasion for American Catholics, including Vance, who converted in 2019. Vance met briefly, we already said that. Pope Leo, formerly Cardinal Robert Prevost, has a history of being critical on social media of Vance and President Donald Trump in the past. See, they couldn't even wait. They couldn't even wait. I told you. I didn't even know this article exists. I told you that's what they were going to do. JD Vance, who Pope Leo XIV tweeted about one time. Okay. Because all policy is based on tweets. And that's the annoying thing. That's the annoying thing that we're seeing here with this setup. Right? It's not Pope Leo that's going to lock horns with JD Vance. It's going to be the impression the left-wing media is going to put out there. I'll block it. As Leo begins his papacy, some 1.4 billion Catholics worldwide will be looking to him for guidance on important issues. Not really. See how this is problem. WXYZ, great call sign, by the way, doesn't understand this. We don't look for the Holy Father for guidance on immigration, abortion, capital punishment, and our relationship with the LGBT MAP community. You know why? Because that stuff is firmly written in the catechism. It's firmly written in church documents. But because the left-wing media doesn't know its booty from its elbow, they're like, oh, well, we don't, you and I don't know anything about abortion unless Pope Francis told us. Like, we didn't know anything about immigration unless Pope Francis told us. And we won't know anything about the LGBT MAP community unless Pope Leo XIV tells us. Incorrect and wrong. Now, of course, if somebody did have a question as the Bishop of Rome, if somebody wanted to ask him, obviously he's going to give his theological opinion, and he's a canon lawyer and he's all these other things. So he has a much more thread approach. But the fact is, all of these questions that we supposedly look to Leo for, we really don't. We really don't, because we have the catechism, we have the saints, we have the councils, we have all of this history that we can reference. And I think the way they're trying to do this is really, it's really just devious. I don't like it. But that's the big thing about Vance going to this inaugural Mass. Not because JD Vance is going, but because the left is anxious. The left is anxious to pin quote unquote, right-wing Catholics and quote unquote, left-wing Catholics against each other. They're anxious to do it because they cannot wait to do this. And of course, all of this is based on tweets, which is absolutely ridiculous. All right, this is RickCast. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, do all the fun things to help this show grow, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hanging out with me on this beautiful May 15th, 2025, Thursday night. First of my doubleheader before I hang out with Mr. Steve Cunningham in about an hour. So let's see here. Let's get to our next story. A very interesting story that I found. Chinese kill switches are found in U.S. solar farms. Now, of course, because the Chinese make all of these things, it's not a surprise that this happens. Chinese kill switches have been found hidden in American solar farms, prompting calls for Ed Miliband to halt the rollout of renewables over security concerns. The Telegraph has the story. On Thursday, Energy Secretary was urged, and this is the UK, to impose a quote-unquote immediate pause on his green strategy blitz to review whether the UK solar plants are also at risk. The components are found in the U.S. included cellular radios capable of switching off equipment remotely, raising serious concerns about grid security, according to Reuters. Now, this is also a problem with everything being made overseas and having to be defensive and dependent on it. So, as we continue, one of the reasons why Trump has been so hard on the Chinese with the tariffs. They were found inside power inverters manufactured by an unnamed Chinese company. Power inverters are the key links between the solar or wind farms and the rest of the power system, converting their electricity to a wider grid. One source told Reuters that compromising such equipment would give Beijing the ability to inflict blackouts on the West, claiming it could create a built-in way to physically destroy the rig. China has dismissed these claims as a smear, but the discovery has also sounded alarm bells within the U.S. government, how likely to prompt a similar scramble in Britain. Andrew Bowie, the shadow energy minister, on Thursday said he was worrying revelations, quote unquote, should spark serious concerns for Mr. Miliband, call for urgent investigations. So this is how the kill switch works. It's right here. It's bad. So number 3, the kill switch device could let China remotely disconnect inverters from the actual grid. Sun hits the solar panel goes to the inverter goes to grid. That's where it stops. And it's a pretty serious thing to think about, simply because the last administration and all Democratic administrations are always so gung-ho on green and solar energy, despite the fact that we don't make it here. Everything's made in China. And we have huge solar farms here in Texas, out in Sweetwater and all these other places you drive by. There's just these massive solar fields right next to the ugly wind turbines. All this stuff that doesn't produce that much energy. It just looks nice. And in regards to solar stuff, all of that is in China, manufactured and created in China. Now think about this. Not only does this affect potentially the solar farms, what about individuals who put solar panels on their houses? Even Tesla makes their stuff in China because they all are made in China. None of the solar panels are made here in the US. None of them. It's a serious question, especially as people are trying to push renewables, quote unquote, renewable energy. But of course, nobody's talking about this. You're not going to hear this anywhere else but here on RickCast, because we actually are talking about things that other people don't talk about. Now we talk about everything else, but just we'll keep our eye out to see how this story evolves going forward. All right. This is RickCast. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. I know. The crazy thing is, Michael, is here in Texas, when we have hailstorms and those things get broken, all those, all the platinum and all those toxins that are, the stuff that's made in those, they just spill into the ground. They kill the ground. That's the thing people don't even talk about, because these solar panels, they're not very tough. We get some nasty hailstorms, and so when they get broken, all that stuff just goes right into the ground, poisons the ground, and kills it. Now, of course, nobody talks about the fact that when you see these solar farms, you have to destroy the ground, the soil, to put in the farms. Nobody talks about the environmental damage that is done to the places where solar panel farms are put. They just say, look at these beautiful solar farms that's producing all this energy. If A, it fries the birds, B, it destroys the soil, and C, it doesn't even provide that much power. So it's, oh yeah, once those things break, you are in a lot of trouble, man, because the way they get you is they install them essentially for free with tax credits and all that stuff, which they're not free and they don't really work. And a lot of times they're like, oh, the power company will pay you. They don't do that either. But then if they break, you're on your own. You got to replace that yourself. Sometimes you'll see them here in Texas after hailstorms. They don't replace the solar panels for like 2 years. They'll just leave that one there because it's too expensive. Like you said, it's not even worth it. It's not even worth it to fix because it's just so damaged, so bad. So that is what it is. Oh, it's yeah. It's awful. It's an absolute. I would tell you it's a racket because it's not sustainable. So solar power only really works in the Southwest for like a legit charging system, because the amount of hours you need on the panels to actually fully charge the batteries, even as like a backup source. People try to, the big thing now they're trying to do here is sell them as like backups. Oh, put the solar panels and a battery in and that'll be your backup source. Yeah, not in winter, man. Not in the middle of winter. That don't work. The only backup generators that work are like your gas or your natural gas or your diesel generators. Those are the things that you need to install into your house, because those are the things that actually will run no matter what. But people keep buying the lie because the solar salesmen come around to your house and they're like, hey man, I can install solar panels on your house free of charge, and then we'll connect you to the grid and they'll pay you the money for it, except it's only quote unquote free because of the tax credits. And then most of the time the electric company's like, we're not going to pay you for this. We don't really want this. So thanks, I guess. So it's all just a racket. All right, let's get to our last story of the day. Kind of funny. Oh, I'm sure they're relentless. They're relentless here in Texas, especially in the central Texas area. They'll come out, hey man, you want this? The only time I actually seriously considered solar panels is Tesla for a while was coming up with this idea of a solar roof, where instead of your covering for the flaps, essentially the tiles for the entire roof was a solar panel. It was a neat idea where there were individual solar panels that were across the entire roof. I'm like, all right, that actually might make sense because it's got enough coverage that you can get enough power from it. And it never really kept on, and they don't even do it anymore. Oh, of course, because you're killing the environment. And of course, salesmen are salesmen. They're the worst people on earth. Oh, I can't believe you're killing the environment. Why don't you shut up, dude? I don't care. All right, last story of the day. Yeah, I don't like salesmen. All right. ESPN's new streaming service is here, and it's the most expensive in the world. Let me see. How much is it going to cost to watch the NFL this year via streaming? I think somebody might have this. Let's see if this actually has the I should have done this before, I know, but it just, like we do on the show. Do they have the actual? There was an actual image that told you how much it was going to cost. It's absolutely ludicrous. Here it is. I think. Yeah, it is. So check this out. Somebody actually. No. Get out of here. Which? I don't want that. I was trying to look at the neat little. Can I? No. Yeah, maybe I'll look at this one. I'd like to look at this one, please. I'd like to look at that, please. Is this a stupid one too? Come on, give me the stupid. Sorry, guys. It's going to cost about $1,500 this year to watch all the games on streaming. It's absolutely ridiculous for these people this year. And some people are like, I don't know how this is even feasible. I don't know how this is even feasible at this point because every single streaming service has to take some kind of chunk out of it. The reason I bring that up is because this is on top of those. So ESPN, who has exclusive rights to like college football, like the SEC and NBA and some NFL games and some stuff like this here and there, has decided they're dropping an exclusive app for sports. Because up to this point, it was either Disney Plus or it was Hulu or it was these weird things. So this is them dropping an exclusive app for $29 a month or $300 a year. I'll say that again. $29 a month or $300 a year for one app. Now, this goes back to cable. And if you didn't know how cable worked by bundling obviously all the networks together, and how they got paid is you got charged like $100. I know it's not that, but I'm stupid. Let me just run these numbers. So you get charged $100 a month, and all these networks would get paid a percentage of whatever it was, right? It was like $2 for NBC, $1 for HGTV, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't sound like a lot, right? You get paid $1 for HGTV gets $1 per prescription, but then you're like, oh, there's 200 million subscribers to DirecTV. That's how. ESPN was always the most expensive. They got like $3 to $4 per subscription every single time. And they've just been desperate. Desperate since cable died to try and get that back. The farther we move away from cable, the more we realize it was a stupid idea. Cord cutting was awesome when it was Hulu and it was a small group of people. I was an early adopter to cord cutting. I cord cut in like 2013. I was like, I'm done with cable. I'm just going to get, Netflix and stuff like that. And it was rough for like a year or two because you didn't have access to live events, live news, this, that, and the other thing. But then Hulu came out and Hulu was like a little cable service. It had the Prime stuff, and that was really great. So then Netflix and everybody wanted their own streaming service, and now everybody's like, wow, this is really a stupid idea to do everybody streaming services because now I can choose not to pay for Paramount or Peacock, and they lose my money. Instead of before, NBC and Universal stuff was on cable, and they were getting paid for everything instead of that. So it's absolutely hysterical. And of course, ESPN is about 3 years too late to the app wars. And let me ask you this. Have you ever watched sports on streaming? Because I had YouTube TV for a while. And one of the perks with YouTube TV is you could watch ESPN and sports on there. Problem is, stream sports are about 2 to 3 minutes behind live games on cable. So I would have people text me. My brother-in-law would be like, man, I can't believe you guys lost the game. There's like 2 minutes left in a basketball game. I'm like, I'm still watching it because streaming service. I'm like, oh, well, I guess the guy's lost. I don't even need to know this anymore. But it's absolutely flat out ridiculous. There's a lot of, cable is still an option if you want it. If you don't want every single streaming service known to man, you can go back to cable. They still have cable options. But people are they're so tired of having, if you want to watch every NFL game, and I don't watch every NFL game, but you need Amazon, Peacock, Netflix, NFL Red Zone. You need 7 different streaming services to watch NFL games. You know what you needed 10 years ago? Cable. You had CBS and NBC. And then they would go back and forth between the two, or CBS and ABC or whatever. And then ESPN would have a game. Now you've got to know 6 different streaming services, 6 different passwords, and all this other kind of stuff. And people are just tired. They're just tired. And now ESPN is like, look at this. You can pay $30 to watch sports on our app. And everybody's going, what? What? $30 a month? For what? So it's one of those things that people just don't know what to do right now. There's just no good options. Maybe radio, but a lot of people actually like to watch too. So this fall, ESPN will launch its own streaming service, offering 2 plans: unlimited at $29.99 a month or $300 a year, or select plan for $11.99 a month or $119 a year. The unlimited unlocks full ESPN experience, all 7 ESPN networks, which nobody cares about. ESPN on ABC, nobody cares about. ESPN Plus, nobody cares about. And ESPN 8, The Ocho. And access to 47,000 live events each year. Now remember, most of those 47,000 live events are going to be women's sports. Plus replays and original shows. The select plan is basically current ESPN Plus rebranded with fewer events and less live coverage. That's not going to please many ESPN Plus users, since high percentage of them complain about the current app's poor design. The $30 per month price makes ESPN the most expensive major streaming service in the US, outpacing Netflix's premium tier, Hulu, Max, and so forth. Bundles can soften the blow. You can get ESPN Unlimited, Disney Plus, and Hulu for $35 a month with ads, which is mind-blowing, or $50 without ads on Disney Plus and Hulu. At launch, the bundle will be discounted at $29.99 for the first year. For cord cutters, there's a long-awaited chance to ditch cable and get big-ticket events like the college football playoffs and NBA finals, but the price stings, especially for fans already juggling multiple subscriptions. According to recent reports, the average U.S. household spends about $69 a month on streaming, still less than the old $122 for cable, but adding that $90 on top, or that $30 on top, makes it essentially $99 a month. So you're saving $30 a month. Cable cutting was great back when you were paying for Hulu, Netflix, and maybe HBO. So you were spending $30 and you were getting all this stuff. Now, of course, it's absolutely terrible that what they've done. And many fans aren't exactly celebrating. Complaints about ESPN streaming quality, limited local team access, and relentless gambling ads are widespread. Some say the new service is just cable in disguise, expensive, fragmented, and still missing key games unless you pay even more for local or out-of-market coverage. As one frustrated fan put it, it's getting harder and harder to justify. Not that this is unique to sports. Hypercapitalism is destroying everything. And I think that's just the best way to put it. Yeah, cable was high, but at least you just paid your 1-month bill. You didn't need passwords, and you just watched whatever you wanted. Now, you don't pay as much, but the inconvenience of knowing 7 different passwords, possibly not having access to the game, possibly not being able to watch it because your internet's not working, or their streaming capability is not very good, or they're having problems distributing the game. There's a lot more problems involved with apps streaming major events. And it's not built for it right now. But unfortunately, people are going to continue to get just railroaded by these companies, especially I don't need to watch sports. So for me, it's not a big deal. I don't watch stuff I don't need to watch football on Sundays. I don't watch any sporting events. If something's included on a bundle, maybe I'll play it in the background. I have Amazon Prime. So sometimes if there's a game on, I'll on a Sunday, I'll play it in the background or something like that. But I don't need to pay for these extra things because I don't care. it doesn't determine what I do. But for people that it does, right? Sports is very important to many people, many guys. I get it. It's really just a kick in the teeth. It really is just an absolute kick in the teeth. And I don't know how much longer people are actually going to stand for it. All right, folks, that's it for this episode of RickCast. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. I will be back in about 30 minutes with the one and only Steve Cunningham of Sensus Fidelium, where we are going to be doing our weekly episode of News from the Pew. So I will see you either in 30 minutes for News from the Pew, or I'll see you tomorrow here on RickCast. I hope everybody has a wonderful night. I will talk to you either in 30 minutes or tomorrow. God bless. And until that day comes, ladies and gentlemen, free Dexter Taylor.